Oh my, it's this time of the year, people. It's when everybody are getting the end of the year list together so that we can share all the best albums that we have been listening to in the last 12 months. My name is Heavy Sleeper, and these are my top 50 albums of 2023. So like all the past few years, 2023 has had some amazing metal releases, but it seems to get even harder every year to narrow it down to just 50 albums. But I've been listening to a lot of stuff this last month, and it was in order to be able to do this list. So yes, it's going to be a top 50, not a top 25 of the year like I may have said in the last video, or a top 25 by quarter of the year, which is what I initially wanted to do, but that meant I had to listen to like 100 plus albums within less than a month. You can understand that that was a bit difficult to do. But yeah, I plowed through as many albums as I could, and I'm quite happy with the list I have here. Right, let's get on with the top 50 now, shall we? So we open up with Svalbard, The Weight of the Mask. This is a post-hardcore / metalcore group that has been making a name for themselves, combining a bit of in-your-face aggression with some more dreamy vibes that are very reminiscent of shoegaze. And the result is an album that feels very real, very raw in its delivery, but very smooth as well. The drums especially sounds really nice. Svalbard certainly aren't faking it. Number 49 is Klone with Meanwhile. This is a fantastic band that I really love, and the fact that they only just made it in the list goes to show how difficult it was narrowing it down to 50 albums. Meanwhile sees Klone taking the very smooth and dreamy aspects of their later albums and a little bit more of that heaviness from their earlier works. And the result is an album that feels enjoyable, very adventurous, like it certainly takes you into the clouds. It puts you in a trance that you cannot wake up from. Number 48 is Horrendous with Ontological Mysterium. Death metal has had a few newcomers that have been very much deforming and reshaping the genre, just like bands like Death and Atheist were doing back in the day. And Horrendous are definitely one of the more old school sounding death metal bands that are doing this sort of thing. And they have been doing it since their very beginnings. But Ontological Mysterium once again pushes that envelope a little bit further so they can explore just how far they can reach, just how strange they can get. Number 47 is Hanging Garden with The Garden. Now, this band sure as hell didn't bust their brains too much to find a title for this album, but that certainly isn't the case for the music, because the music is very well researched, very nicely put together, and Hanging Garden are certainly trying to push themselves further to see what they can find out about themselves as a band, to the point where they actually added a second vocalist in the band. The mixture of male and female vocals, it works really nice. There's lots of different emotions running through this album, and I like it a lot. Number 46 is Vinsta with Freiweitn. This is an Austrian project that mixes folk with progressive metal. The beginning and end portions of the album are this beautiful, sort of slightly melancholic, but also uplifting, drifty kind of music, very calm, very sensational, but then in the middle it sort of goes into an Opeth direction. Even without understanding the lyrics, this is one that definitely gives you a setting that makes you feel a certain way, that makes you sort of understand what is going on, what the songs may possibly be about. Number 45 is Eldritch with Innervoid. Man, this band has been around since the 90s, but the thing is they are not phoning it in, even though they're on their 13th album or something ridiculous like that. And with this album they've lost their long-time vocalist, but they are not just going to give up. They found a new vocalist who is definitely the right man for the job. He's got a bit of that melodic kind of voice, but with a bit of a hard edge to it, kind of like Dino Jalusek, the vocalist on the last Michael Romeo album. If you don't know this band, definitely give them a try. I think you'll like this album. Number 44 is Fleshvessel with Yearning, Promethean Fates Sealed. This is not a brutal death metal album, unlike what the band's name would suggest, but this is more of the avant-garde variety. And man, this album is strange but incredibly captivating. When it gets going, it really sounds beautiful. There are so many different musical ideas being put together, even though this sure as hell isn't the easiest listen. But it definitely will satisfy some fans of bands like, Diablo Swing Orchestra, Mr. Bungle and so on. This is an album that is as beautiful as it is uncanny. Number 43 is Night Crowned with Tales. This is one of those bands of the melodic black, melodic death variety that certainly is able to create a very captivating and immersive experience. They make you feel like you're being swarmed by those dudes on the album cover, either that or you're riding with them across lands and skies. There's loads of hidden details that with every listen you'll continue to go deeper and deeper into this very almost cinematic experience that the band are creating for you. Number 42 is Winterhorde, Neptunian. Yes, we got an album from December. 4 of the 7 members have changed in this Israeli group, but they have managed to cook up another album that immerses you into a certain story, into a certain ambiance, but it also has a nice variety of tracks. Some of them are a bit more on the atmospheric side, a bit strange, but others will be a lot catchier, sort of taking black metal and then bending it and breaking it and shaping it into their own unique brand of music. Number 41 is Sulphur Aeon with 7 crowns and 7 seals. This is another death metal band, if you can even call them that, who are really transforming and breaking the genre's boundaries to push it into something new, in something that's unheard. And it is really exciting the direction that this band has taken with this album. And they're definitely one who are evolving and one that you want to watch for if you like extreme metal that has a very solid atmosphere and one that's also very precise in the way that it's delivered. Turning death metal into something that is very strange but at the same time very beautiful to listen to. Number 40 is Ignea with Dreams of Lands Unseen. Now, if you've seen the Fear Factory on their latest tour, then you also probably saw this band. And I'm glad that I've been able to see them because they are an amazing band. And Dreams of Land Unseen sees them evolving as a band and giving their strongest effort yet. This has some very beautiful vocals, some beautiful keyboard sounds as well, and orchestrations that are reminiscent of Middle Eastern culture as well as Eastern Asian culture. If you're a symphonic metal fan, this is a no-brainer. Number 39 is Twilight Force with At the Heart of Wintervale. Yes, we've got some crazy, overly joyful power metal for you here. And they combine all these musical ideas to make an album. You cannot stop smiling when you listen to this. Twilight Force, they may be a bit ridiculous, but they certainly aren't a band who should be ignored. Instead, they should be one of which the ridiculousness should turn you on, because it is just so damn fun. Not to mention that big finale at the end that just goes all out epic. Number 38 is Moonlight Sorcery with Horned Lord of the Thorned Castle. Man, this is some upbeat black metal that has some incredibly addictive guitar melodies. The Horned Lord, he is inviting you into the Thorned Castle to party with demons and witches. It's almost like going to an Addams Family party. Every single song in here is going to make you want to dance. It's going to make you want to party like it's Halloween or something. After hearing the EPs, I knew this band was going to be pretty interesting, but man, they've come a long way in just 1 year with this first full leg. Number 37 is Xandria with The Wonders Still Awaiting. I think this new identity of the band will have some wonders awaiting for it. What we have right here is yet another album that is very strong, very powerful in its delivery, that is nicely put together. The metal element is very present, but you also have a bit of a pop element to it in the way that it's very hooky, very addictive, and it also has some nice orchestrations laced within in order to give the songs this very bombastic, this very hard-hitting approach. Number 36 is Redemption, I Am the Storm. This band have unleashed a storm within them and they have carried it into a very interesting album with some nice choices of songwriting, and they've always touched on very serious subjects and have always managed to do so with providing a lot of emotion but a lot of musical madness. You have some very heavy instrumentation that are contrasted with vocals which are very smooth, very emotional. The last 2 tracks exceed the 10-minute mark, but they also have a few calmer moments. For instance, the song The Emotional Depiction of Light. Wow, I mean, this is the ballad of the album, but it's actually one of the best tracks on it. Number 35 is Orbit Culture with Descent. They have this very heavy and this very punchy sound, and they keep pushing it into new boundaries. Descent certainly isn't a descent for Orbit Culture. For them, it's more of an ascent. But for you, it is certainly going to feel like you're descending into the pitch black void, but that for some reason you want to descend into the pitch black void because you are getting ready to have some energy, some fuel, some adrenaline. This album is very heavy. It's got those very chunky riffs, but at the same time, it's almost quite dancey at times. It's very strange. There are some moments where it was almost like I was literally in a nightclub or something, except I'm not listening to disco music, I'm listening to some heavy ass groovy melodic death metal. Number 34, we actually have a tie here between 2 albums. On one hand we have Excalion with Once Upon a Time. This is a very melodic prog power album. It's a lot more on the softer side of the genre, but the songs are no less powerful that you would hear from heavier acts. This is some very lively and very upbeat music, despite some of the themes being a little bit dark, but they turn it into something that is very beautiful and almost feeric at times. And this is the beauty of this sort of music, is the emotions that it's able to conjure inside you. So also coming in at number 34, we have DGM with Life. Man, this album came out a couple of weeks ago, and I'm damn glad it did, because this album really is the story of life. It touches on subjects that I think anyone could easily relate to. And DGM, they're a band who always delivers on every album. And the only reason this isn't higher is because they're kind of playing it safe a bit. But it doesn't matter, because they delivered, and they delivered strong, with every track being memorable and being powerful. Number 33 is Kalmar with their self-titled album. Man, this is an energetic, epic death metal and a great return from these guys. And I've had the strange idea of listening to that during a walk, but then the next thing I know, the album was getting me pumped up so much that my walk turned into a jogging session, and I was about to go rummaging into my neighbor's garden and then greeting them by ramming into them like some crazed barbarian. This is how much this band can sound epic and just make you immediately want to charge into battle. Man, the guitar melodies here are so hooky that you couldn't be humming them after you heard the album. But it also has some slower tunes, like the closing ballad at the end, that also show their slightly more melancholic side, and they nailed that as well. Number 32 is Anubis Gate with Interference. This is an amazing prog metal band who have a strong legacy behind them. Anubis Gate show that they can still write some very strong songs. This is not a concept album, but they definitely have conjured a lot of emotion from the things that have happened to them over the last couple of years, and channeled it into this very magnificent album that is very strong. It is not a technical rankery or anything like that. Anubis Gate are one of the bands who work very much on the atmosphere. It has a bit of an anticlimax, with the strong point of the album being the intergalactic journey to stardom. But even though it lands on a more melancholic note, it's kind of normal because there have been a few grievances happening in these band members' lives. They are an underrated band. If you don't know Anubis Gate, give them a try. Number 31 is Elven King with Reader of the Runes Part 2, Rapture. On this album, every track is catchy, every track is memorable. It's fun, folky music, very epic as well. It certainly makes you want to join their like paganism, whatever the hell it is they sing about. You want to immediately just go party with some druids and some forest witches and some whatever creatures you can come up with. They're a great band who have been on a really good roll with their last couple of albums, and it's great to see them still at it, in good shape and form in 2023. Number 30 is Stortrain with Finitude. My gosh, this band just keeps surprising me with every release. They have a fantastic level of technicality, but they also know how to create a big and pummeling atmosphere. And this album, it goes wild on the instrumentation. You'll be listening to like a massive pummeling technical melodic death metal tune, and then it'll just transition into like some flamenco or some shit. You have these like weird musical ideas all converging, but it's just really nicely done. It's in here, and it's definitely a band that you should check out. Number 29 is Dod Heimsgard with Black Medium Current. This is another band that mixes some very strange ideas together. This is like a black metal or industrial metal band or avant-garde metal. He has a bit of all that in there. And this is probably one of their most consistent albums yet, because here they really managed to link all the different ideas together in such a way that the album really feels like a progression, like an adventure into deep space. A bit like Arcturus, you know, those kind of bands. This is an album where I didn't just throw a bunch of random ideas together and say, hey, there you go, we're an experimental band. No, instead, they really link all the ideas together very carefully, and each track builds into the next one very nicely. And even if you don't like one song, you can keep going, because the next song, you know it's going to be completely different. Number 28 is Novaria with The Gates to the Underworld. Oh my gosh, this band, they play some intense power prog, and this band have got even heavier with this album. Well, with that kind of title, you would expect the album to have a little bit of gut to it. This one has a lot of gut. In fact, I'll tell you what comes from the gut is those vocals, man. You got some really nice performances. You got some keyboard solos and guitar solos on every single song. You got some massive orchestrations. Man, if you're still waiting for the next Symphony X album, this album is going to have you occupied for a while, because they've nailed that style of later Symphony X albums. Ironically, Symphony X's last album was called Underworld, and this is The Gates of the Underworld. Wait a minute, there seems to be a link here. The Gates of the Underworld is a strong effort that just descends on you like raining thunder. Number 27 is Winter Rage with Nakia. This is a power metal band that has a very strong classical music influence, or in this case perhaps more of the soundtrack variety. The orchestrations in here are so well done, to the point where you're going to get some vibes of your favorite modern blockbusters. I wouldn't be surprised if this band starts opening for Two Steps from Hell or something like that. And the heavy metal element certainly isn't lost. It is very present and definitely serves as a stronger basis for that classical music to layer itself over it. I should also mention that Winterhorde have a violin player in their band who also composes the orchestral elements. Number 26 is And Oceans, as in gardens, so in tombs. Oh my gosh, man, this band had a long hiatus of like 15 years. They've come even stronger with this second album since the comeback. As in gardens, so in tombs sounds like the marriage of heaven and hell colliding and transforming into some hybrid universe that is undescribable. You know, it sounds dark, it sounds diabolical as you'd expect from black metal, but it's also very melodic and it's laced in with beautiful keys that help it elevate it to this grandiose nature. And the fact that they only made it halfway through the list just goes to show how insane this year has been in releases. Okay, we arrive in the second half. Number 25 is Omnirod with the Immensal Rise. This album shouldn't be called the Immensal Rise, it should be called What the Fuck Is Going On? I'm Losing My Mind. Man, this album is like the progression of your mental state after taking a dose of LSD. Done in a very classy way though. This band are not just throwing a bunch of random shit together in order to sound like an avant-garde band. No, they are really piecing all these different elements in order to create something that is just absolutely awesome, but it's also completely insane. It's like a beautiful behemoth that you just cannot look away from. You don't know how to feel when you're listening to this album because it's so uncanny, but yet you want to stick until the very end. Number 24 is Periphery with Periphery 5, Gent is Not a Genre. This is a stupid album title, but the album itself certainly isn't stupid because Periphery always deliver and they always explore their full scope. That's what I love about this band. Once again, this is an album where you can find yourself headbanging to the point where your neck snaps to some really chunky mathcore, and then the next thing you know, you'll be singing along to a very catchy chorus. Especially the last one, man. Thanks Nebu is just a fantastic album closer, and I love how they sort of linked all the tracks together. Periphery, they're an amazing band with a solid musicianship, and it shouldn't be surprised that they are very popular today. Number 23 is Theocracy, Mosaic. This is probably one of the best Christian metal bands out there. Yes, they're Christian, so what? You got a problem with that? You know, this is not a preachy band. They have actually some very well written and interesting lyrics. And not to mention that they are sung with Matt's fantastic voice that can certainly reach some high notes. And it's a band that has a lot of energy, but it's also very uplifting in the way they deliver the songs. There's a flipping genre called death metal. Why not have a genre called life metal? Well, this would be it. Every song is captivating, every song is catchy, every song makes you want to sing along to them. One thing that is definitely worth mentioning is the 19-minute finale on this album. I had never thought that they would be able to pull it off. This could have easily been absolutely messed up, but no, instead it is a track that is completely captivating from start to finish, absolutely beautiful. Number 22 is Angra with Cycles of Pain. Again, man, life metal, this is it. These are veterans of power metal. They have only masterpieces in their discography, and you'd think that at this point they'd probably lose it a little bit. Hell no, they haven't lost it. Angra, they show that they can still surprise us, that they can still evolve as a band. This is a beautiful piece of power metal. And it shows that they are still confident, that they've still got it in them. Obviously it has your big old power metal bangers that will immediately get your spirit lifted up, even though the album is called Cycles of Pain, but it doesn't, you know, try to dwell in the pain and just sink you into total depression. Instead, it's going to make you explore that pain and make you bounce back up. And they also include some more progressive elements as the album unfolds, and also some more tropical elements in some of the songs. Yes, tropical, that is a good word for this album. And the operatic finale with Amanda Somerville is top notch, man. Love that song, love this whole album. Number 21, Tesseract, War of Being. This album has immediately reignited my interest in them, and it makes me understand why Tesseract are a band that so many people have got into, because they really combine loads of musical elements that make them a definite gateway band for people trying to get into metal music, prog music, any of that stuff. This whole album is so sensational, it's atmospheric, it's dreamy, and it explores very deep emotions, very deep concepts. and channels them into just magnificently composed music. Daniel Tompkins, he is definitely one of the modern metal vocalists that you need to know about, because he really puts a lot of emotions into his vocals, and the result is now that just misses the top 20 mark, unfortunately, but it could have easily been in there. It's still at number 21. It's that gent, which apparently isn't a genre. No, it's not gent, actually. Screw you. Okay, here we go. The top 20. Number 20 is Catatonia with Sky Void of Stars. This album, I think, will satisfy every Catatonia fan, because it gives you a setting, it gives you a place where you find yourself, and you eventually get lost into this very dreamy vibe. You know, the album is called Sky Void of Stars, which basically means being lost, which means, you know, finding yourself. It's an album that was relevant back when it came out to me, and it's one that still is today. It goes to show that Catatonia are amazing songwriters, and that they can continue to develop and push their style in new ways to surprise us, to the point where we are literally living dreams by listening to this album, because it is so damn immersive. Number 19 is Fires in the Distance with Air Not Meant For Us. Again, this is a bit similar to Catatonia, but going for more of a melodic death doom kind of style. Yes, it has that very nicely done melancholic vibe that it nails to perfection, but it did something more. It has some elements that make this album very relatable, and that's why a lot of people liked it. You know, the guitar melodies, the songwriting, the little piano elements that are laced within the album to give it this very beautiful and drifty vibe that can somehow really touch that emotional spot, sometimes taking me to memories from back in the past. It's a tearjerker of an album. It gives you a setting that you immediately find yourself plunged into, and because of that, the album is going to hit your sweet emotional spots, and it's going to damn work. This is definitely a gateway album for those looking to listen to melodic doom metal. Number 18 is Shade Empire with Sun Holy. Holy moly cows! This band, they've introduced a new vocalist. He does the dual vocal style, and as a result, this is probably their most diverse album. If you like Dimmu Borgir, you definitely need to know about Shade Empire. The orchestrations, the songwriting, the way each song is very distinct, and it carries you further into the album's mood. This is some music that's got a very dark vibe to it, but it also plunges some light into the darkness, as you can hear, especially with that ending track, which is absolutely beautiful. Every song on here is beautiful in its own right. I simply cannot recommend this album enough. Number 17 is the Anchorette with It All Started With Loneliness. Wow, man, you want to talk about an album that gets you lost in it so deep that you really feel like you're in a film, and that film is progressively building through your head. And it goes to show just why I love progressive music so much, because it keeps conceiving new ideas, it breaks boundaries for music, and it always has amazing musicianship, and this album has exactly that. Great musical mastery, but it is so incredibly moving, and those saxophone solos, oh my gosh, they're gonna make your heart weep. The Anchorette, it all started with loneliness, it all started with amazingness, it all started with damn geniuses, is what it started with for this band. Number 16 is the Zenith Passage with Metalicious. Oh my days. Man, this band have followed a classic album that came out ages ago, and they managed to outdo that said classic album, because Metalicious is exactly what you want from a tech death album, and it keeps doing different things as the album progresses. You keep finding yourself intrigued because it introduces new ideas little by little, and it does things that you don't expect it to do. And then you get towards the end, all of a sudden there's like this massive, very grandiose passage that you just thinking, whoa, what the heck just happened? How did we get here? And then you want to revisit the album over and over again to figure out just how it gets to that point. Number 15 is Keep Off Coalescing with Catharsis. This album is cathartic. This album is going to grind you into meat. This is the apocalypse. This is literally the soundtrack to Ragnarok. This sounds like Nordic gods fighting each other. Look at the dude on the album cover. He's ready to do some carnage, and you're gonna feel like you're in the middle of this carnage when you listen to this album, because man, it is grandiose. And they come back after an 8-year break, considering the last album was already quite intense. They somehow got even more intense with this one. It might be too much for you, that's fine. Because yes, it is intense, but it's also quite melodic and quite memorable, this album. So that's why it is here at number 15. Number 14 is Alkaloid with Newman. This is an amazing supergroup that just goes mental. It includes current and past members from Obscura, the singer of Dark Fortress in there, and together they have created a mind-bending album. It's an album that starts off with very introducing very crazy musical ideas, but lacing them in such a nice and beautiful way. And it gets even crazier as you go through the album. It's like the universe itself is folding and the time and space are just imploding. All matter is about to just converge and turn into this turbulent ball of total nonsense, but somehow it makes sense. This is what this album is. Newman channels that what the hell is going on factor, but I love it. This is what you're going to think when you listen to this album. Number 13 is Love Bites with Judgment Day. Oh boy, you want to talk about an album that is going to motivate you, that is going to get you excited. If you're a power metal fan, this band is going to be your new crush. The musicianship is insane, well, as it is for all the bands in here, but here, man, we have just some crazy drumming, some crazy guitar. This is the party time, but it's partying hard here on this album, and every single song is memorable. Every single song just has these soaring melodies. Imagine Judgment Day, but instead of it being the apocalypse, it's the best thing that ever happened. Instead, it's rejuvenation. I don't know, man, this album just got me so excited to the point where I literally just started jumping and dancing in my room. Number 12 is Shadow Strike with Traveler's Tales. Ironically, this is also the name of my favorite video game development company. But man, again, if you're a power metal fan, do yourself a favor because you need this in your life. This band, they take themselves seriously, and because of that, they are able to create a fantasy land that is going to build itself in your head and that is going to fill your heart with joy and hope. It channels the best elements of bands like Dragon Force, Twilight Force, and Rhapsody of Fire. And while some people might roll their eyes at the back of their heads by hearing this, put a little joy in your hearts, you miserable gits. This is fantastic music. This is super well executed. It's got already some fantastic orchestrations, but that's not the end of it, because the musicianship here once again is on top notch, and the compositions in this band are top notch. While people are listening to Christmas music, this is what I'm listening to. Number 11 is Mystery with Redemption. Now, we have a prog rock album in here. I know the title says Best Metal Albums of 2023, and Mystery are definitely one that have to be in here, and they have to be high because they're one of my favorite prog rock bands. No, scratch that. They are my favorite progressive rock band. This band got me back into progressive rock with their last album, Lies and Butterflies, back in 2018. And this album somehow outdid it. They deliver music that is just full of emotion. And don't get me started on that massive finale there. They don't hesitate to do some lengthy songs, but no matter what they do, it's always going to be memorable. Remember what I said about music that brings you back into memories? This is what this album did for me. It's a wonderful experience. If you want to get into progressive rock, check these guys out because I think they'll get you into it, and they're also a band who are releasing big albums in this day and age. Alright people, we've made it. The top 10. It's been an interesting marathon, but now it's time to conclude it. The 10 best ones. Number 10 is Inslaved with Heimdall. This is Nordic god level metal music. Inslaved, they're on their 15th album. 15! And you know what? On their 15th album, this is usually the point where most bands will just recycle the same shit that made them popular in the first place. Not Inslaved, man. They are still evolving. On their 15th album, they put out something that sounds completely new, unlike anything we've heard before. And man, boy, is this album immersive. It feels like you are traveling through Nordic tales, like you are living those tales. And then next thing you know, you're making your way towards Asgard to meet Heimdall himself, or perhaps even meet all the other gods and go through Valhalla and all that shit. Man, this album is wonderful. And every song is different, every song brings the atmosphere a little bit further. Number 9, speaking of bands, legacy bands coming back strong, we have Insomnium with Anno 1696. Yeah, it was my last gig of the year. It was an Insomnium gig, and we finished the year in absolute beauty. And man, when you listen to this album, you feel that you are plunged into that story. You see it come to life. You don't even have to think too hard because the music is going to do all that for you. You will literally be in the middle of that story. You will be that protagonist. Considering this band have released, classic albums, They always managed to follow that classic album in the best way possible. And on this album, that's what they did, because they went with something that brings in new influences. There are some folk elements that come into play here. There are also some soundtrack influences, perhaps, I don't know. But all I know is that it sounds a little bit different than what they've done before. But you recognize the Insomnium sound. This is a band that is immediately recognizable. As soon as you hear those riffs, man, you just get those goosebumps that immediately haunt you. Number 8 is Earthside with Let the Truth Speak. Progressive music, there's a reason why there's a lot of it in my end of the year list, and it's because these bands bring loads of musical elements and, you know, transform the whole thing into something beautiful. This is the highest rated album on Prog Archives from this year. By the way, the actual band themselves are instrumental, but they have guest vocalists that come into this album. There's Daniel Tompkins from Tesseract on one of the tracks, and goddamn, that track is absolutely magnificent. If you're a fan of Tesseract, by the way, you jump on Earthside right away. And then there's also a track featuring AJ from Fire from the Gods. Man, there's a band I haven't listened to in a while, but damn, he sounds fantastic on that song. And, you know, each song brings in a new musical idea. You never know what they're going to do. And even the instrumental tracks that don't have vocalists are still amazing because they just build up so nicely. Better than most post-rock bands do. It's beautiful music that just goes to show what progressive music can be. What can happen when you really put some effort into creating something that's entirely new, but it's also very accessible for any music fan. Number 7, speaking of long-awaited comebacks, Scar Symmetry, The Singularity, Phase 2, Xenotaph. Oh my gosh, let's go! Not only did I get to see them, but I wasn't actually expecting them to come out with a new album after all this time. But we finally got it. But for a 9-year wait, this is everything that I think we could have hoped for. Every track on here is brilliant. Every track has this perfect balance between, you know, aggression and catchiness. You know, the two vocalists, they're really good frontman. Seriously, go see this band live. And the tracks themselves are also quite balanced. You'll have the more catchy, sort of epic tracks like the 3 first tracks from the album, but then it's going to go towards the second half of the album. You're going to get a lot more sort of apocalyptic sounding tunes, almost coming close to technical death metal. And this is groovy. This is, you know, like Gothenburg melodeath sound. So it's groovy, it's fun music, and it creates a universe that you can get yourself immersed into. Number 6 is Shalma Gognar with Convergence. And here we have an album that came out in November. This dude, it's a one-man band. One guy doing this. The last album from Shalma Gognar is the album that made me accept growled vocals in metal music. Because the instrumentation was just so flipping good that I didn't even care what the vocals were anymore. It does many different things, you know, it pulls influence from bands like Insomnium, like Opeth, like Agolok, and it mixes them all together into a beautiful collection of songs, with each one really having its own mood and tone, but further pushing you into the album's flow. There are some moments that are going to be a bit more black metal, there's a bit of melodic death metal, there's a bit of maybe some folky passages, there's a little bit of sort of mellow, almost prog rocky. There's even a song where it just goes into full-on blast beat where I could almost see myself doing a wall of death to it. And then the last track, which is almost an ode to Jean-Michel Jarre or Vangelis or one of those guys. So many beautiful elements on this album. Number 5 is Temperance with Hermitage Darumazai's Part 2. This is a fairy tale of an album, man. This is a beautiful adventure. But man, I wasn't expecting them to deliver a top 5 tier album. Every single song in here is catchy and memorable and makes you want to sing along. This band has 3 vocalists, 2 of which are Michele from Visions of Atlantis and Marco from Virtual Symmetry. Considering those 2 bands were in my top 50 of last year, there's also some other vocalists that have joined the party. In total, there's like 6 vocalists on this album. You even have the keyboardist from Ancient Bards doing the orchestration. And what is going on, man, on that last track, it's almost they created their own Bohemian Rhapsody or something. You know, when you're a kid and you're watching a fantasy film or whatever, and you get hooked to it and you believe in that film, you feel like you're the protagonist. This is what this album is. They sound very positive, very uplifting. You know, they give you a little pat on the back. You know, it's really that kind of album that sticks with you and that you can really use as something to motivate yourself, to lift your spirits, to say to yourself, damn, life is good. Number 4 is No Spun, or is it No Spoon, with Opus. This is just top-notch progressive metal. Obviously they're talented musicians and you can hear that, but being able to play your instruments like gods is one thing. Being able to then use those skills to make the listener really feel the story that you are invoking. That, my friends, is another skill. And this band have done exactly that. They've created a concept album with like a crazy story that bends the fifth dimension. The longer songs are amazing. There's a 15+ minute track that is an absolute flipping opus, like the album. It's a magnum opus is what it is. And you'll understand how the album just portrays the mood and tone of the story perfectly. And so when I heard this album, I said to myself, I gotta check out what else these guys have done. And then I realized, this is their only album. This is a debut album. These guys sound like they've been doing this for 20 years. It sounds like their 6th or 7th album. Now, you know what I want you to do? I want you to give this band some love. I want you to show them that you care, that they continue to exist, they continue to be a band, because there are way too many progressive metal bands that got signed line, you know, really amazing bands. I don't know how to describe this album, man. It's genius. It's the perfect balance between emotion, telling a story through a concept album, and then using your technical skills to do loads of amazing things. Number 3 is Ne Obliviscaris with Exul. Now, I bet you thought that was going to be the album of the year, didn't you? If you've watched my best of January to March. Well, it was the ideal candidate when it came out. We know the deal with this band by now, you know. It's not going to have the same shock factor as when they first emerged. But it doesn't matter, because they are still amazing songwriters and they're doing their best. They're giving everything they got to mark some releases that are going to be monuments of today. And Exul is one of those monuments that you definitely want to behold. Now, I assume by now that you know about this band, and if you don't, then why do you not know Ne Obliviscaris? Change that today, please. Once again, they've created an album that mixes together beautiful musical ideas. It's technical, but it's also got a lot of heart put into it. It's got some very complex ideas about the way they channel it. It's going to make you feel something. It's going to make you drift into just musical ecstasy. And it's got plenty of replay value in order to dissect all the different layers. It's just fantastic music that is going to enrich your mind. Here we go. We still got 2 more bands to talk about. And number 2 is Sacred Outcry with Towers of Gold. Are you looking for the next big thing in power metal? Well, if you are, stop. This is it. This is the band right here in front of you. This is the band that you want. This is the band that you've been looking for all this time. It's Sacred Outcry. And this band, believe me, they know how to write a power metal album. The songwriting here, you know, again, it's one of those albums that has a story. Every track is going to set a different mood for each chapter in the story. It is basically written like a book. It's written in chapters. Towers of Gold, the title track at the end there. Wow. Wow. Can we just say best song of the year? If you listen to this album, you better listen all the way, man, because otherwise I'm going to come at your house and I'm going to punch you and I'm going to strap you to a chair and you're damn well going to listen to it. Every guitar solo, every riff, every musical idea that is being introduced serves the story and it serves the emotion. Yes, it's not just an album with a really magnificent concept, it's an album that has meaning, that the story that it tells, it has meaning and it has emotion. And I haven't even talked about the elephant in the room, which is Daniel Hyman. Yes, Daniel Hyman from the band Lost Horizon from the early 2000s. He is singing for Sacred Outcry and he just somehow delivers perhaps the best performance he's ever done. He's hogging all the vocal duties from all the amazing newcomers in power metal. He's done an album with this band called Dimhav back in 2019. Now he's got one of the best albums of 2023 with Sacred Outcry. If angels exist, that is how they sing, man. Like him. I might regret not putting them at number 1 in the future, but at the moment, this is how it's going to be. They're coming in at number 2, and there's one album that right now just wins by a whisker, a tiny, puny little whisker, but I can't make a tie for the album of the year. I think that would be a bit cheated. So here we go. Number 1 is Atav Vista with Cosmic Warfare. There's the word cosmic in there. You know I like my cosmic metal now, don't you? I look at the album cover, it looks very spacey. You stick on the album, The album greets you with a really nice orchestral introduction, definitely starts to set the mood and tone for the album. It's a good thing to have, you know, it's a nice touch. And then the first track begins, the track Cosmic Warfare. And it just hammers you like the hand of God itself has descended from the skies, grabbed you, and then tossed you into outer space, as if you suddenly woke up, and next thing you know, you're in a spaceship that's heading straight for a warfare between cosmic gods and titans, with meteorites just raining upon you, and that you're about to crash and you're like, shit, what the heck is going on? Where am I? Oh my gosh. And then the next thing you know, it just transcends into a dream-like experience. It is going to greet you with just crazy drumming, magnificent melodic riffs, and it keeps this up all the way through. Yes, because when you hear this, you think to yourself, are they going to be able to keep this momentum up? Are they going to make every track as exciting as this? Hey, not only that, every track seems to be even better than the last. The album somehow improves as it unfolds. I mean, man, I haven't even talked about the vocals, man, because not only does he play the guitar, but he also sings pretty damn well and is able to nail both vocal styles, between harsh vocals and clean vocals. And obviously this is going to create a pretty good balance. Basically, this album is like if you mix together Winter Sun and Keep of Kalesin. You get the magic of Winter Sun, and you get the chaos, the warfare aspect of Keep of Kalesin. And then you put that together, you get yourself the album of the year. And this is not the end of the story, because I've seen this band live. Whoa! It was a 30-minute orgasm. Strong vocals, amazing riffs, whether you're talking about the bass riffs or the guitar riffs, they're all very shreddy all the way through, but always with catchy and memorable melodies. You got some insane drumming, and then you've got yourself some really beautiful orchestrations laced on top of that. Just check them out. I've said that for every album on the list, but it is top 50 of the year. And so this concludes this list. I hope you're going to enjoy this video. If you have, please give a like to the video, subscribe to the channel so that it can continue to grow. And thank you for making it this far into the video. This is going to be the last countdown until, well, next year's top 50. But don't worry, you'll be discovering new bands and more in detail in future videos. So I'm looking forward to the next one. Take care, friends. See you soon.